Look, it's been obviously a long process, sitting watching players play for the last 4 months, watching them play every week. And as I've said to you before, looking at the computer and watching or being out and watching the A-League over the last month, and watching a lot of players. But what a wonderful day, I have to say. It's been a tough last few days. I've had to make a lot of phone calls and at the end of the day, phone calls that just to disappoint people, which is very difficult. But I'd rather look at the positives and look at this group of young players that we're taking to the World Cup. 17 players going to the World Cup for the first time, and we will be relying heavily on the 9 that have been to World Cups before for their experience to help those young kids on the way. So again, it's it's always tough to announce a 26-man squad. But again, it's a very exciting day that after this is over, I can now focus on football.
Okay, we'll open to questions. We'll start with Joey Lynch. Over to you, Joey.
Arnie, just absorbing the squad now, one of the biggest names that jumps out as not being selected is Trent Sainsbury. He's been a captain of this side before, he's not been selected. Can you walk us through your thought process on not calling him up?
Yeah, obviously it was a very, very, Joey, difficult decision. Trent, I spoke to Trent obviously about where he's at this moment in time. He hasn't played for a number of weeks. Obviously he's playing here in Qatar. But overall, I've gone for, players like a Harry Sutter, Kai Rolls, who've done exceptionally well and continue to do exceptionally well. Trent was very understanding of the situation, but it's a decision that, again, is hard to make. We went for 4.5 centre-backs, half when I say that, and Thomas Deng that can play right back as well as centre-back, and we need to be adaptable. So, again, it's a decision, tough decisions to make, but decisions that I believe are decisions that are going to make the team and the nation proud.
Daniel Garng.
Arnie, can I ask about the other big omission in Tom Rodgers? Your thought process there? Did his decision to not play in the playoffs have anything to do with that at all? Can you talk us through that one, please?
Absolutely none at all, Daniel. It's, during the time I spoke to Tommy, I had Tony Vidmar go all the way from Australia to West Brom to watch Tommy. Rene Molenstein was over in the UK to watch Tommy. But at the end of the day, I only can pick 2 players for every position, and pretty much in a 26-man squad, I would have loved to be able to pick 50 players. And but we've obviously gone for Aiden Harisic and Riley McGree in that area. And again, we need some flexibility, and we need players that extremely are fit and ready. And I just felt that at this moment in time, it was a decision to make for the on the playing side of it. Tommy's been absolutely brilliant for Australian football, and he will continue to be so. But again, I have to make those decisions.
Tom Williams.
Hi Graham, could you elaborate on some of the thoughts behind the new people brought into the group, like Keanu Bacchus, Cam Devlin and Jason Cummings, who didn't really feature much in the World Cup qualifying campaign, but have been pretty good this season?
Yeah, look, energy. The players that bring energy into the camp. You've got to remember this World Cup is a completely different World Cup to the past. It's normally you've got 3.5 weeks lead in. We've got 7 days lead in. Players are going to come in. Are the players, chosen, able to back up every 3 or 4 days is a question. Adaptability and that type of energy that those 3 players you just mentioned. And, they're 3 players that, as I said, bring a heap of energy and, enjoyment into the camp in that family culture of the Socceroos that is important. And, Cam especially and Keanu are doing very good things in Scotland. They're playing a lot of football. They're doing very well. And in that area of the field, again, in midfield, difficult choices to make, but that type of player and energy is going to be crucial.
Tom Smithies.
Ali, a little perplexed by the omission of Mitch Langerak when you brought him back in September. I know you said at the time there were no guarantees, but given that it was such a substantive U-turn that you both agreed on, was that not done with half an eye on him being in this squad?
Yeah, look, again, you know, we sit and the staff, we all work together. That's why we're here in Doha, Tom, is to get here early and face to face, and we make that decision together. I'm not an expert in goalkeeping, and you know, we've got a great goalkeeper coach in John Crawley who has a process and studies these goalkeepers and understands these goalkeepers enormously, and you know, so we've made, and I've got to trust that process with John Crawley, and you know, we make those decisions. I trusted John Crawley in when we played Peru, and with that substitution, that change, and you know, and I've got to trust again those type of decisions. But Mitch is a fantastic guy, fantastic goalkeeper. It was all around, again, bringing him back was around what happens if something happened to one of the other goalkeepers, because at the end of the day, there is a lack of depth of goalkeepers. You look at the age of those three goalkeepers you just talked about, in Andrew Redmayne, Danny Vukovic and Mitch Langerak. You know, we need more young goalkeepers coming through. But look, again, tough decisions. We can sit here all day and talk about the negative ones and the ones that I left out, but I'd rather talk about the positive things than the ones that we brought in, and how unique this World Cup will be.
Adrian Archui.
Hey, Arnie, just want to ask about the players under injury clouds, mainly Orstich, but also how's Corol's and Harry Suter, are they going to be, you think, ready to start game one? And just talks about the players that are under sort of injury clouds heading into that first game.
Yeah, look, it's happening all around the world. You know, where players from other nations with injuries. There's another 2 games the players have to play before we actually get them into camp next Monday. So, you know, these next 5 days is going to be quite stressful sitting here and watching those players. Kai Rolls came off the bench and is expected to play 1 or 2 games this week. Harry Suter has played a number of games for Stoke under 23s, and we do expect him to play and start this week in one of those games. And I truly believe that in these boys, and at the end of the day, you know, they'll come into camp, and I do believe that we will be really fresh and ready for this. And as I said, they are risks, but this is what it's all about. You know, I've taken risks before, and and I'm prepared to do that again.
Vince Regari.
Hi, Arnie. I know you want to talk about the positives, but I've got to ask again about Mitch. I mean, you've spoken a lot about how important it is for your players to be playing first 10 minutes, and he's been excelling at club level for, you know, several years now. Are you able to shed any more light on John Crawley's thought process around there, why he hasn't been picked? Because, I mean, a lot of people are very surprised by that, especially, you know, did he do anything in the New Zealand camp that John's taken a look at and thought that's why we can't have him?
No, not at all, Vince. You know, again, it's a process that we go through and we speak together. And look, again, I'd rather look at the positives. Danny Vukovic and Andrew Redmayne, Matty Ryan, 3 top goalkeepers, 3 great people. And it's a decision that's been made. And you know, as I said before, it was when Mitch bringing him back, it was about, you know, a plan if in case. And, you know, at the end of the day, John Crawley believes, and we believe, that we've picked the 3 best goalkeepers for this World Cup, and that's what we're sticking to.
Okay, we've got David Mark.
Thanks very much. Graham, can you tell me the thinking behind the selection of Garang Kuol, and how do you plan to use him?
Well, shouldn't this be the most exciting moment? You know, like an 18-year-old kid that's just come out of nowhere and is on a new journey in life. And you know, we've seen these type of things happen many times before at World Cups and massive games where, you know, players who are unknown come out and, you know, shock the whole of the country. And Garang is, you know, has really shown at the Mariners how he can change a game. You know, it's obviously, I watched him with the under-20 national team when they were away playing the Asian Cup qualifiers, and and I watch what he can do individually. I brought him into camp against New Zealand. He fit into the Socceroo family so well, and really a player that has absolutely zero fear. He just goes out and he wants to entertain, and he did that against New Zealand. And he's shown right from the start of the A-League this season that he's a player that can change a game. So when we talk about an impact player, a player that can do something different for us, someone that can have a 1v1 in individual action and change a moment of a game, I think Garang Kuol is that one.
Robbie Cornthwaite. I've got 7 News Adelaide, is that Robbie?
Hey, Arnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, Arnie. Just one for the local market here. Just a word on Craig Goodwin's return to form, and also Awa's not been playing a lot of football. How did you see his selection?
Yeah, Rob, when you look at Craig Goodwin, and I can say this, the only left-footed winger in the whole country, and he gives us something completely different as a winger. His set-piece delivery is first class. The way he's been with us in camp and myself, he's like when you look back at the Peru game, his first touch of the ball was that penalty, and Craig has always been a positive influence in the group. And as I said, he gives us something different, like a David Beckham style crosser of the ball, how he can set up those set pieces. So it was great to see him come back, and he hit the ground running with Adelaide. And as I said, gives us something different with his left foot. And Awa Mabil, yes, he hasn't been playing that much football, but again, it's the selection process of 2 players for every position, and the trust and the faith that I have in Awa. Awa's, I believe he's the most capped player that I've used right through the whole campaign, and given him the most chances in this campaign, and he's never let me down.
Joey Barton.
G'day, mate. You talked a little bit at the start about the tough phone calls. Can you explain a little bit more, kind of just how agonising the past couple of days have been, but also just the joy of the good phone calls outweigh the tough ones?
Yeah, thanks. It's look, it hasn't just been the last few days. It's been, as I said, the last 3 months and 4 months ever since the Peru game. It's been tiring. It's been hard, and communicating with players, all the sports science people at all the clubs around the world, where the players are, and obviously I've got so much gratitude to my physio, Kurt Lyle, who's been travelling Europe as we speak, talking to the clubs and looking at the players. And the great news is, and the great stories is when you ring up a kid like Cam Devlin, who's doing exceptionally well at Hearts, and asking what he's doing over the next few weeks. And the kid says, I don't know what where I need to be at that moment. And I said, well, you're going to come to Qatar, come over here. And he breaks down in tears. And letting these kids fulfill their dreams is incredible. And those stories and those moments are great. But the hard ones, the hard stories and the tough stories outweigh a little bit them at the moment. But once we see those boys, we'll be right.
Luke Doherty.
Hey, Arnie. Just a word about Jason Cummings as well, and his journey and just what he brings. What did you see in him over, say, someone, unfortunately, like, for Adam, who's missed out?
Yeah, again, Luke, Jason, when I brought him into camp for the New Zealand games, he gives us something different. His energy's fantastic. He goes out on the field. You can see at the Mariners when he goes out in the field, he just you can see the joy that he brings to the rest of the team, and he's very brave, and he's prepared to do what needs to be done. Works extremely hard, and he's a player that can play as a 9, but also in between the lines and create things. So you got to give full credit to Jason, and when you look at this squad, and as I said, 17 players for the first time going to the World Cup, and 3 of those players that are in that is Martin Boyle, Harry Sutter, and Jason Cummings, that are more Scottish than they are Australian, and but their pride and how much they love to play for Australia. And Jason made that move coming from Scotland out to Australia to show me and to show Australia what he's made of to go to a World Cup. And I think he's got a very big smile on his face today.
Clint Stanaway.
Arnie, thanks for your time. Just talking about those amazing phone calls and Garang Kuol's story. What message did you have for him as coach, an 18-year-old about to head to the biggest show on earth?
Yeah, look, I've made that many phone calls the last couple of days, and if you can understand this, please, is I felt it was more important to tell the players that weren't selected than the ones that are selected. So a lot of these players are going to go, wow, I've been selected, and the phone calls will follow this press conference. But, the kid just needs to be himself, and he does it every week. And, I think he's excited, Australia. He showed it against Barcelona. He's shown it for me against New Zealand in those moments of times. The way he can just, in a 1v1 action, change a game. And even if I say it like this, and it's like backyard football, where I say that just go out there and enjoy yourself, son, and go and show us what you can do. Show the world what you can do. And that will be the message to him, because that's his strengths. I'm not going to send him out there to play to his weaknesses. It's about playing to his strengths, and it's about doing Australia proud.
David Bashir. Try again, David. We're having trouble hearing you, David. I'll come back to you. Simon Hill.
Just a question on, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Injury replacement players, do you have to name them?
No, not really. At the end of the day, they're on that 55-man squad list, and we've got a few days to get through this. After this weekend's round, the last round, we've got another 4 or 5 days after that. If players do get injured with a medical certificate, we can change them. So, as I said, it's been a stressful time, but we've still got another 5 days to go, and the boys are all in great shape, and they're looking great.
Try David again.
Okay, Graham, I hope you can hear me now.
Mm-hmm.
Just those fine line injury players who made it in the squad, like Rolls, Sutar and Atkinson.
Yeah.
Can you give us an indication about how close to the win they flew and how much their previous form was taken into consideration for selection? And the same can apply for Brustic and Boyle as well.
Yeah.
How close was it to those 5 players?
Well, it gets down to that belief and trust. We've built this family environment with the Socceroos, and I've been working with these boys for 4.5 years, and knowing what they can do now. And especially Nathaniel and Harry and Kai, as you said, I work with them with the Olympic team as well, and what their mentality is. Their mentality is so strong, and I expect those boys to play more football this week, and I truly believe that the makeup of the squad, there's going to be a lot of freshness and a lot of energy, and those 3 guys bring that into camp, and again, it gets down to that trust and belief of what these boys do when they cross that white line and get on the field.
Adam Peacock.
Yeah.
In gives you a bit more depth in midfield, in the defensive midfield sense, if you like. Does that mean Moy will have a really adjustable role? He looms as a pretty important player on paper.
Absolutely, and that's the whole thing about that midfield. If you look at that midfield, they can play in any. If we play with a 2-man midfield, 3-man midfield, they all can play in every role on whichever side. And Aaron has shown at Celtic, where he's playing more as a number 8, how well he can do there. But also he's shown for us what he can do playing as a number 6 with Cam Devlin and Keanu Bacchus. They're runners, they're fighters. You know, we need 11 boxing kangaroos on the field every day, every game. And those 2 young boys bring that energy in. They'll run, they'll chase, and we have to be honest. You know, we're up against, you know, best nations in the world. It's a World Cup, 32 nations, and we need those runners and those fighters in midfield that will bring all that energy and belief into the team.
All right, we've run through everyone that had their hands up. I'll just call for any further questions. Repeat questions?
No, there's none.
There's plenty more here. Okay, Tom, back to you, Tom Smithies.
Surely that's enough.
How hard are you trying to persuade Christian and Volpato to play?
Yeah, Tom, right up until probably 11 p.m. here last night. Again, it's not my decision. I spoke to Christian yesterday 3 times. Before that, I'd spoken to him on numerous occasions. I pretty much told him yesterday that he was in the 26-man squad. He wanted to go away and think about it. I wanted to speak to the people around him that helped guide his career. And he came back last night and declined the offer to come and play for Australia at the World Cup. And, you know, and that's his decision at the end of the day. But, you know, I'd rather look at the young boys that we've got in and young Australian boys that have come into this camp, that will come into this camp, and look forward to the future. And Christian, he feels at this time of his career that it's such a massive decision, and at this moment in time he doesn't want to make that massive decision, which is all his right.
Back to Vince Regarding.
Thanks, Elvis. Arnie, I'll double go with this one for you. Honestly, I don't know, but did you make that offer to Alessandro Cercani? And also, just curious if you were thinking around left back with Joel King over some of the other options you have who play more regularly, like a Davidson or an Elder. What was behind that one?
Yeah, look, Vince, again, you know, 2 players for every position. And, you know, Callum Elder is obviously the last 3 or 4 weeks hasn't played that much with a hamstring injury. But again, it's my belief, my decision. And, yeah, Joel King for me is a younger player that every time he plays, like he did at the Olympics and that he's always there and steps up. And, you know, it's, again, I'd rather look at the positives on these young kids. I do feel that, you know, if there is a legacy, that is the young kids coming through. You know, when I took over in 2018, Vince, it was an ageing squad. I was thinking, where am I going to get these players? Where, you know, losing players like Jednak and Cahill and Milligan and Cruz and these guys, where was I going to replace them from? And that's why I did the Olympic team. And when you do that and do the Olympic team and you build that trust and belief in these kids, and Joel is no different.
Joey Lynch.
Thanks, Apis. Arnie, just maybe a double barrel as well. Firstly, building upon what Simon said, with your reserve, your injury players, because you've got 24 hours before the France game to change with a medical certificate,
Yeah.
will you have them nearby? Can they come to Qatar? Do you stash them in Abu Dhabi? What's the procedure there?
Yeah, there's still a good question, Joey. There's still conversations I've got to have with those players. Again, to get this press conference and to get the squad out, it was more about the 26 players. There will be players that, you know, are obviously training and playing with their clubs. How do I see that? Well, I think it's better that they stay and play with their clubs in the meantime, then bring them over and, you know, they miss out on club football up until Sunday. But when they do come into camp, we will probably look to bring in a couple of extras just in case. But when those extras come in, you know, when the World Cup does kick off, then it's too late to change them. So then they'll probably go home, which is also a tough decision to make for those players. So it's also about the players being prepared to do that.
Just following up on that, some of the selections that you've made, have you selected some of these players, their attributes, their preferences based on your game plan for France, Tunisia and Denmark? Some players got the nod over others because of what you want to do on the
Of course, Joey, good question, mate. It's it's obvious that I've been watching France, I've been watching Tunisia, I've been watching Denmark, and as I said, it's 32 the best nations in the world, and we've got to make sure that we're ready and making, especially in this midfield area, making sure that we're adaptable and we can play in any way. If it's a 4-4-2 system defensively, or if it's a 4-5-1, or even a 5-4-1, or 5-3-2. It's something completely different that we will adjust and make sure we get our game plan right and have the players that can do that.
Ben Smith.
Hi Graham, thanks for your time. How close was Adam Taggart to making the squad, and did his lack of goals and games in the J League this season end up counting against him?
Look, he was, one of the last phone calls I had to make. It was a decision again that we decided to go for 3 number 9s. Adam has obviously, done a lot for the Socceroos in the past, and again, it was just one of those decisions that I've made, and I truly believe in those the 3 9s that we've got in Duke and McLaren and Cummings, and again, it's one of those 50-50 calls that decisions are made, and I've made.
Tom Smithies.
No, sorry, I meant to have put my hand down.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Are you waving goodbye, Tom?
Adrian Archuli.
Hey, Arnie, just an interesting one. Like, obviously, given the timing of this World Cup, given the players are still going to play this weekend, given a lot of the Socceroos players haven't actually played that much, do you think that could be working in your favour in the sense that a lot of the players are going to come in actually quite fresh compared to a lot of the other nations where they're coming straight in, especially that France game? There's these guys that all going to be playing this weekend before. Do you think that, for a coach, that's going to help you knowing a lot of these players are actually going to be quite fresh? What do you think about that one?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say that our players haven't played that much. They are playing. The players, obviously, in other nations, are playing in top clubs in European Cup football, Champions League, and a lot of football in those countries. So, our boys, we don't have any players playing in the Champions League and playing those midweek games more, where they're playing 1-2 games a week, which is, as you said, could bring an advantage of freshness into this World Cup with no time for preparation.
David Mark.
Thanks. I'd like to ask about the other side of that coin, particularly with the likes of Rolls and Sutar, who haven't had a lot of game time. You talked earlier about risk. Are you concerned about the risk of taking in players who don't have the level of match fitness that we like? And do you see those guys starting for you?
Yeah, look, mate, it is a risk, and I've always taken risks as a coach to be successful, and this is no different. Yes, Harry and Kai are coming off the back of those injuries, but I know what they can do. I know what their mentality is. I know how their brain works, and they're type of people that if you put them in a boxing ring and they've had no preparation, they'd still go in there and do a great job. And it's my decision. It's my belief and trust in those 2 players. We do have a backup plan, obviously, there with those 3 other centre backs, or 2.5 centre backs, as I said, with Thomas Deng, that can play in other roles. Bailey Wright brings great leadership, and Deganek brings great experience. So I think we're well covered in those positions if there is a risk.
David Lee.
You do see them starting.
Sorry?
Just to confirm, you do see both of those players starting against France?
I see all 26 players starting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked any of them. I've got to make those tougher decisions on the starting lineup when that time comes.
Okay, David Bashir.
Yeah, Graham, just wondering about, you may have answered it partly, but Krosic and Boyle, we know the quality they bring to the team. Do you think they'll need, with their injuries, do you think they'll need managing into the tournament, or do you think they'll hit the ground running? How is their fitness at the moment? How are you comfortable with where they're at as far as hitting the ground?
Yeah, look, very good question, because these 2 players are players that I've had right through the whole campaign. They've made a lot of sacrifices during the whole campaign, but also they bring that X factor on the field. and I'm speaking to them. You know, Aiden is fit. He's ready to go. I expect in this week coming he'll get some game time at Verona. Martin Boyle is, he's one of those that we don't have too many of. And again, it's a risk, but the risk will work. I truly believe that in Martin that he played a lot of football before he got this smallish injury, and that time off that he's had now over the last 10 days will freshen him up, and he'll come in. And again, I know how his brain works. I know how he is as a person and a player. And once he puts those boots on and comes in, he'll be ready to go.
Thanks, David. Tracy Holmes.
Thanks, Graham. Just wondering, we know that players are using their platform there to highlight various issues in Qatar. How do you think that will impact the team when it plays? And also, perhaps whether there's, that may embolden them because they're using that platform in a positive way, or whether there will be some sort of, kickback from the other side, and how the Qataris and the atmosphere there is going to play into all of this.
Thanks, Trace. Look, I've already spoken to the boys. Once they arrive, it's all about football. We're here to. The statement has been made. Everything has been put out. The players now just need to focus on the game, focus on football, and come here and and enjoy this World Cup.
Luke Doherty.
Hey, Arnie, I think you just...
Sorry, Luke, we lost you there for a sec.
All good, sorry. Arnie, I think you addressed a little bit before with Martin, but just for clarity, his club said that he's going to have to play through pain. Can you just give us an idea of, does he come in ready to be the normal, bustling Boyle who you start out right, or does he come in and you need to manage him a little bit?
Luke, I wouldn't have bought him if I didn't think that from the first minute to the last, Martin Boyle will be at his best. Again, once he gets here, there will be no pain. It will be all about the mentality of getting ready for the game and getting out there and giving everything that you've got. So I'm so confident in that. As we've said, if there is that doubt at all, in my view and the medical staff's view, well, we have that time to change it.
Last couple, Tom Williams.
Hi, Arnie. Just another question on the Olympic campaign and sort of how you oversee that campaign. We've seen a lot of players from there being named in this squad, Kai Rolls, Nathaniel Atkinson, Thomas Den, a few others as well. But one interesting point to look at is that Connor Metcalfe and Dennis Genre, who started every game at the Olympics, aren't in this squad, and Keanu Bacchus and Cam Devlin, start a single game, are in the squad. Is that more a matter of picking players for the type of opposition that we'll face, or is it more a matter of they're getting so many more minutes than Dennis Genre and Metcalfe?
Yeah, exactly. And minutes in that role is important. And again, tough decisions to make. But, it just shows you and shows me, Cam Devlin and Keanu gone over to Scotland. And I had this conversation with Cam Devlin, in the camp that we had in New Zealand. Just a difference, a change in his body and physique of the amount of football that he plays in Scotland compared to Australia. So, he's in 1 and a bit seasons, he's played over 50 games. And in the A-League, that's 2.5 seasons of football. And he's just developed and he's come on physically. And, Denny Jeanroux and Connor have been at their clubs this year. And they're different type players that we have in those roles. Denny and Connor are both those ball type players where we need some players. Also, with the other players that we've got in that midfield area that are fighters, runners, tacklers, chasers, and we may need to those type of players to track players for the opposition. So it's a different style they bring to the midfield, and it's we've got strength in that area, and they were hard decisions to make.
All right, I think that wraps it up. Or we've got one more from Vince. Last one for you, Vince.
Thanks, that was Arnie, just on Matty Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is last match day squad for FC Birmingham.
Yeah, look, Matty's given got all the trust in the world, mate. You know, I've known him for a long time, but also he's never let Australia down, and he's the captain. And you know, he's played. He hasn't played for the last few weeks, but at the end of the day, as I said, it's our trust and belief that we have in Matty. Matty will come into camp excited and ready, and we need his leadership. Sorry, and his experience, because he's one of those, 8 or 9 players that have that experience of being to 3 World Cups. So, that's very, very crucial, important, and no doubt Redders and Danny Vukovic will give him great support, but also put a lot of pressure on him to make sure that he's in that great form.